Greetings, guys, and welcome to Future Proof. I'm here today talking with Corrie Ackland. Welcome, Corrie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Corrie is an interesting person. Corrie actually runs the Sydney Phobia Clinic, and you get to spend your days hanging out with fearful people.
Absolutely.
So, I was intrigued and reached out to you, obviously, after hearing about the amazing work that you're doing. So perhaps start off with telling us, what are the trends you're observing through your work in fear, that are kind of, keep coming up?
I think the most surprising thing is, certainly we have all different kinds of phobias coming through. So there's the most classic ones, the arachnophobia or the claustrophobia, fear of heights, fear of flying, public anything at all.
Yeah.
And I think what people are most surprised about, when we get into the treatment, is that really at the heart of them all, they're all the same. So plug in whatever content you like, it plays out in all the same way. And so it's very easy, I think, for people to get stuck in what their stumbling blocks are. And they find it quite unusual that someone else can have a very different stumbling block, but that it's all the same thing. And that's what I love about it, because you're able to then draw in these other examples to really hone in on what the treatment model is, and then it's just a plug and play.
It's so interesting because the program that I run, which is all around helping people learn how to step into fear and use it as a lever to create, the lives that they want. It's the same observation as you're saying, is that once you get people to put their fears on the table, what we find is that pretty much everyone has the same fears. Yeah. So immediately by putting it out there, you've already helped people realise that they're not alone. Yes. And I think that in itself is powerful, but then you're taking it one step further and saying, yes, you're not alone, but here's the way that you might start to deal with those phobias. And the fears you're dealing with are, for many people, they're debilitating, yeah?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit, I talk a lot about fear holding people back from what they want, and I think there's a lot of fear at the moment around the future of work and the technology and the artificial intelligence that's coming our way, yeah? How are you sort of seeing that correlate with the work that you're doing? Is there a correlation?
Look, some of the anxieties that we're observing, and particularly when we're looking at how it might impact the workplace, and a lot of these phobias, when they get to the severe clinical level, they impact what kind of opportunities we can move forward with in work, the flights we can take, the presentations we can run, all of these sorts of things. People then have this extra level of pressure around how replaceable they may be, how valuable they are, and therefore they're not giving themselves the space to really stop and address those fears and then be able to manage themselves through, because they're feeling too much pressure around it, and that is just this extra level that's holding them back.
So I'm guessing you're probably seeing a lot of overwhelm and anxiety.
So much.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to us then a little bit around the fact that, what I was so intrigued in your work was you started to use virtual reality to help people overcome significant phobias. Yeah. So the work that you're doing in many ways is quite cutting edge in the psychology space. So talk to us a little bit around how you're using virtual reality to help people overcome fears, and also the impacts that that's having versus, the traditional models.
Yes. So the virtual reality is such an exciting thing we're bringing here because, at the heart of the treatment, we're talking about, it's our learning model. So it is just about learning and strengthening those skills that are going to, put you in a different position around the thing that you fear. And when it comes to some of these phobias, we don't have the opportunities to practice it. Virtual reality then allows us to bring those practice opportunities into the session and also allows us to do these things repeatedly in a way that the real life tasks might not allow us to do. So if we're thinking about someone with a fear of blood tests, for example, even if we can get them to a point of having that blood test, that's one, maybe we can get it done every month, maybe, but with virtual reality we can do 7 in a day, and then the next day and the next day, and we can get so much practice behind the management of doing that thing that it becomes, easier, like anything, like learning any skill, riding a bike, driving a car.
So if I break it down, you're using virtual reality to build resilience, aren't you? around perhaps coming back, bouncing back from fear.
Absolutely. And, you know, with some things we get those opportunities. If you have a stack on your bike, and we all know you get back on your bike, right?
Yeah.
And you practice more and more and more to build up that confidence. Virtual reality allows us to get back on the bike and bounce back with anything, public speaking and flights and animals and everything. It's remarkable. And I think the most impressive thing that we've seen is there's no barriers. And I think I expected virtual reality to be seen as something a little bit, you know, new and you know, too overwhelming for some populations, but we're not. You know, we're getting the full lifespan through, interested to see how virtual reality can help bridge that gap to getting them towards overcoming their fears.
I'm guessing because people, by the time they get to you, they're kind of desperate. Desperate, not in a bad, but you know what I mean? It's like they're coming to you because they obviously want help with it. These are people that actually want to overcome these fears. Yeah,
want to overcome it and haven't been able to find that stepping stone. And so that next step seems just so overwhelming and so far away and so scary that they need to bridge the gap, and virtual reality allows them to do it.
I love it. So if you spend your days in fear, okay, and listen to everybody else's fear, I think it would be remiss of me not to get you to put your fears on the table. So tell us, what are you afraid of? And how, you know, in the work that you do, how do you leverage what you now know to actually help yourself overcome those fears?
And I think that's the beautiful thing about fears, is that I'm not immune. I might have all of the tricks, but I'm not immune. And there are certainly things that I fear. And, you know, we were talking about kids before, and my little one just started kindy last week. And, you know, there's fear around that. And, you know, I've had my own fears before. Spiders were a big problem for me before I opened the clinic, which I managed to overcome. More recently, I've had difficulties around water, which I've also, you know, gone a long way to overcome. And all of the same strategies that I talk to my clients about apply. It's about looking at what can I control, what's reasonable for me to control, putting my best efforts towards that, and then letting go of the rest. And that letting go is difficult, but there are other strategies to help in terms of, you know, refocusing and physical management strategies like breathing if the anxiety is too much, and then breaking it down into small components and putting one foot in front of the other when it comes to those components and tackling it, one bite at a time.
Isn't it interesting how the way that we can treat this stuff, and I see it because in my work in terms of I teach people how to make change in bite-sized pieces, because if you can break it down into small pieces, it reduces what's already an overwhelming and anxious situation. So it's kind of like any step, no matter how small, is progress.
Yes.
And you know, what I see is that once people start to make just small steps, it builds the courage and confidence to then take bigger steps over time. So it comes back to building that resilience. Yeah. And the other thing I thought was interesting that you said was that you're not immune to fear. I am yet to meet anyone who is completely fearless.
Well, it would be unfortunate to be so, wouldn't it? Because fear keeps us safe.
It does.
So it's a very normal model, and, you know, when it's working out normally, it, you know, it helps us every day. We just don't judge it when it's helping us. And then when it comes in when we don't want it to, or it's unexpected, or we can compare ourselves against someone who's doing it better, that's when it starts to become an unraveling experience.
So tell us what's next for you. Where are you going to take this? Because there's a lot of interest in the work that you're doing. I mean, how long ago did you start your practice, your business?
This particular clinic we opened September 2016. I've been working with severe anxieties since I left university in 2012. So I love anxiety. It's definitely where I'm supposed to be. But, you know, I'm excited to meet people like yourself. I'm excited to take it to the networking phase. I'm excited about branching it out. I want to look at sports phobias. I'm really interested in sports myself. So, fear of flying is a bigger space. I want to do more travel with it. And, start bringing in some of my own personal interests, I guess, and seeing how that can help the development go.
Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you. That's it. Too easy.